Okay.
I need
So,
in on that.
okay. I love that. So I went to Croatia. One of the first trips that John said I should take was to Croatia to see my friend Miliana, who lives there. So I took this trip last October, and she had nominated me for the ATL Europe, which is the Association for Transformational Leaders. And I put a retreat on in Spain, and I have clients that were in London and Spain. So I've done some things in Europe. And so there was a conference there, but I went to go see her, and we went to the conference. And at this conference, there was a question that was asked. And they asked, what advice would you give your younger self 10 years ago? And as I closed my eyes to receive the message, I just heard this, stay sexy. And I was like, oh, I I lost my sexiness. I lost my, you can get so caught up in life and you forget that sexiness is an inside job. It's being tuned in and turned on from the inside out. And it can be whatever you want it to be. There's emotional, there's spiritual, there's physical, there's all the things. And so we had to go around the room. Partner A had to whisper in partner B's ears, and their eyes were closed. And so I'm going around and I'm telling everybody, stay sexy. And then, everyone's giggling. And then after that, they had me come to the front of the room and they said, Amy, can you share what your message was to your younger self 10 years ago? And she said, can you close your eyes and send that energy into the room? And I just felt this amazing love and just expansion, and it felt just such a high vibrancy. And then she had me open my eyes and she said, now I want you to send that heavenly sexiness out to the world and imagine everybody in this heavenly sexiness. And in that moment, I knew heavenly sexiness was my thing.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hopenning. This is a place where hope is happening. And I am here in Northern Alberta, Canada. I am Fran, and my lovely guest today is Amy Anfinson, who is in Springfield, Missouri. We welcome you, Amy, to the show.
Thank you, Fran, for having me.
It's so great to have you. We had you for the first time about 3 years ago. And things have changed so much in your life. But for those of you that don't know Amy, I will read about who Amy is. So my eyes are on my second screen, so forgive me for looking away. Amy Anfinson is an international positive change coach, intuitive mentor, and keynote speaker with a career history of helping high-level executives, business owners, influencers, and entrepreneurs create, build, and scale their businesses through her empowering O.A.S.I.S approach. She has a proven track record of delivering transformational outcomes. Amy helps people gain a deep understanding of their emotions, calm their nervous system, and activate their innate inner power. She has just finished authoring and publishing her book called Blameless Living. Well done, Amy. And she's also going to talk about her late husband, John Anfinson's book called The Wingman. And it was actually published before her book. So we welcome you, Amy. I am so grateful to have you on the show again, especially since the last 3 years have really been a change because, it hasn't been that long since John has passed.
Yeah, it was May 28th of 2024 when he passed. So it's not even been a year. And prior to that, there was 9.5 months of preparation to prepare for his transition. So yes, my life has changed a lot, and I appreciate you having me on here. And I look forward to sharing about the messages that have come, which has helped me and given me hope through this journey of grief and moving forward in life, and how do we keep moving forward.
All right. And I read about John's passing through your updates. You would update. I had been following you for quite a while, and I read about John's progression through his illness. So before we talk about that, let's talk a little bit about your own progression from not from being a child, but what made you into the human you are today? Like there's been different instances in your life that kind of touched upon that are touched upon in your book, Blameless, but also the idea of living blamelessly and creating a formula for yourself called the Blameless Living Formula that's based on an acronym of POWER, POWER. So what brought you to that place of blameless living? And then from there, we can talk about what happened later with John and the reasons for this new book, and of course for John's book as well.
Yeah. Well, my Blameless book, in the end, turned into a memoir, which I was not anticipating that, because I'm a fairly private person. So there's a lot of things that I have not shared, but um, through the work and the help of others, drawing the stories out, I realized, the blameless message has been in the preparation for all of these years, starting, when I was younger. And just, we've all had experiences that have transformed our life for the better or worse, but it's up to us to shift those things from the worst into lessons learned, and becoming more into our power of not letting anything hold us down. So there are stories in my book about things that happened to me when I was younger, and how I really lost my voice many times, not being able to speak up, which I think we can all relate to at some point, and learning how to reframe the stories that we have in our mind. I realized there was relationship experiences from a very young age that just continued to repeat themselves. And because my story was always the same, and then, and I got married, in that relationship, had good points, but then there was a lot of challenges in that as well. And I lost my voice in my marriage, and physically lost my voice. I had laryngitis. I remember having to take steroids. So it's amazing how our physical bodies can represent our emotional states too. And so there was just a lot of things that happened in my life where I felt not seen, not heard. And then I started a Sunday school class called Lives of Purpose, because I was seeking answers for myself and support as a young mother with young children. And as I was sharing things that I was learning even from the Bible, the blameless message was where uh, it it gave me insight into what I was experiencing and how to move through it and become better from it. And so the blameless message was one, I'd heard the story of Job, and he was this blessed man, and he had all of land and cattle back in the day, family, but it was all taken away. And I was about ready to go through a divorce, and in that marriage, we had gained a nice financial lifestyle. So I had financial means, but the emotional connection and communication and that type of thing was missing. And so I was having panic attacks and anxiety and depression, and I was really seeking answers. So as I was studying Job, it talked about how Job recovered from the loss of everything. Like everything was taken away, but he remained blameless, or found a way to step into that blameless state. And then he was given tenfold. And I thought, oh, I could use some of that. Uh, so what does this blameless thing even mean? And it was me asking the question and desiring to know, what does blameless mean? That was my question to God. And I asked it with a pure heart and curiosity. And then I was awakened in the middle of the night with that answer. And I wrote it down in my journal, and it says, I'm honored and humbled to receive this message, and I promise to share it with the right people. So for the past 18 years, it was 18 years ago this month that I received this message, and I've been sharing it throughout, that this time with my clients, and anytime I was inspired, and I found it to be a really powerful message. I even, one time when I was an executive career coach, I was in a Zoom call with just one breakout room, one person in a breakout room. And I found out that that night she was planning to take her life because her her life was so hard. And I ended up sharing my blameless message with her that evening. And the next day, she said, you saved my life with that message, because I didn't think I could keep on living. But once I heard your message, it changed everything for me. And so over time, I've seen the power of this message. And so I'm really excited that it's now in book form, and it's my story. So it's a little easier to take in. It's not like, here's what you need to do. It's, here's a story. Here's how I handled it. Here's how it can be helpful to you. And my desire and intention is that people gain insights and revelations as they read for themselves, and continue to let in. When you can move into this blameless state, it's amazing, the blessings that begin to pour in, because you're coming from a place of realizing that you are in control of your thoughts, of your mind. Sometimes we feel like we're not, but when we come from our heart and then we connect our mind to our heart, um, there is just so much more space to allow love to flow in and out. And I think love is a powerful state to operate in when you are not blaming anyone, and you're like looking for what good is going to come from this, and how can I move forward, and what am I ready for next, and knowing that life truly is for you. It's not happening to you, but it's for you. And so how is it for us is the question we always want to ask ourselves.
Right.
And that blameless, the blameless state helps us to do that.
And it's not easy,
No.
excuse me, to not blame, because I think I'm a lot like you that way. I take the burden upon myself first. I start looking here first. What did I do wrong? Why didn't this work? Why wasn't I planning carefully enough? All of those. I don't know if it's because I'm a mom, and a woman, a wife, ex-wife, all of those, the daughter even. Um, I, I tend to, but I know many women do. Many women feel it's their role to make everything just perfect for everybody, right? Everybody's going to be able to interact perfectly at Christmas dinner. Everybody's going to grow up to be perfect human beings. And then if there's a glitch, it's constantly looking back. So by reading your book, I know that that was a huge thing for you too, right? The the idea of not blaming yourself, the idea of not blaming the power that be, right? Not blaming God or source or divinity, not blaming another human, not blaming the stock market or the right? There are a lots of things that we can point the finger at.
Yes.
But what happens when we start pointing the finger at anywhere and any place? What happens, even if we start blaming the finger here? What happens within that environment that keeps you ever from growing and changing it? In your own words, Amy, you said it really profoundly in the book. Why is it necessary to stop blaming?
The moment that we're blaming, it doesn't matter which direction it points, does not matter. It's a frequency of blame, which is a lower vibrational state, which does not allow us to be in our greatest power. And I think that everyone, sometimes the word power, I know I used to have a problem with power when I was in my other relationship because I felt like he had power over me. And, perhaps I put him on a pedestal because he had financial means and he, maybe I felt like he was smarter than me or whatever the reasons are, but we give our power away. And when we are, when we blame ourselves, we're not in our power. But I found that when I can make peace with power, I love the scripture. It says God doesn't give us a spirit of fear and timidity, but a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind, or self-discipline. So self-discipline is to manage our energy, our thoughts, and our perspective on how we look at things. So over the years of practice, it's like building a muscle. I've learned that my perspective on things makes a difference. And if I'm blaming, I'm giving my power away. And I no longer can accept, because I have found that when you accept what has happened in life, that doesn't mean you have to like it, but you accept that it's happened because you can't go back and change it. You step back into your power when you accept this has happened, and blaming just keeps me in the past. So what do I want to do here and now with what has happened? How do I want to move forward? Who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? What new identity do I want to let in? Because we're always growing and expanding into more. We can't not.
It's interesting when you talk about giving your power away. So if we take that literally, just giving away our power by blaming, um, even for yourself, you started having trouble with your feet. You weren't able to do the type of activities you like. Well, you're extremely athletic. You talk about that a lot on the book. And as long as you were in the blaming mentality, you were giving away power. And so your body, I think about that. Your body recognized that you were giving away your power and stopped your ability to work out the way you wanted to because things hurt too much.
Yes. Yes. Our body it represents our emotional energy state. And so my body, the more blame I had, the more my body started not working. I couldn't walk barefoot in my house. It was painful. I had arthritis down my spine. There was many things that were happening, and it really made me slow down and look inward. And that's when I started really seeking, like, I just wanted to heal myself. And so I believe it all began with receiving the blameless message, because that helped me step back into my power, and my body healed. Even the arthritis left my body after years.
I believe it. I do believe that. Because if we're a victim, if we are always the victim because all of these bad things are happening to me, and you hear this, right? You hear people talking. I don't know why I'm sick again. I, you know, all of these things, my bad back, my bad, whatever it is, we are claiming being a victim. We are claiming that label. So if we were to think of a person who is a victim, literally, well, yes, they probably are beaten up and battered and broken and all of that. So we literally become what we have labeled ourselves to be. And we see it often in my practice, in your practice, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And the sometimes we don't even know we're a victim,
Right.
like it all begins with creating that awareness, with no judgment. so we can move out of that victim state. And even, when we do have physical things, like I've got a dear friend that was diagnosed with cancer. And, it's not about blaming when you're in it, even when you're in it, it's not about blaming. And it's about learning to love yourself through it and be a, a best friend to yourself, kind to yourself. Like, how much nurturing and loving love can you give to yourself when you're going through something painful? And to me, that's how we move out of the victim mode, but we have compassion with ourselves. That's how we stop blaming, because I think blaming self is probably the number one. I think people that are unconscious, they blame others. And then when you become more conscious, you blame yourself. But when you elevate from blame into this, what I call the faith frequency, then there is no blame. There's, because you believe that good things are on their way, they're coming, because faith is believing in something before you see it. And so
Right.
you just you feel it into existence. You feel the goodness into existence, even though reality may not show it yet.
And it's almost like a time continuum or a time quantum time where it's there, but the time, in order to contract that time is to have that faith that it is actually there. It's there. I'm not there yet, though. I'm not there yet. So yeah, that quantum time coming together as well. So Amy, if you can just briefly talk about the power, the blameless living formula.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually in my book, and it's a formula that I created, and it's an acronym. So the P stands for pinpoint the object of your blame. And so we have to become aware that we're even blaming. And what I found is that um, blame comes in maybe daily, you know, like even at the smallest things, I think of my dog. For some reason, he's having some accidents in the house, and I started blaming. I started getting angry about the accidents, and it's even the littlest things when we're blaming, and learning how to refocus our blame into something that's productive. So we first have to pinpoint. So the P stands for pinpoint the object of your blame. And then O stands for own your power by deciding to stop blaming. We have to make a decision and say, I don't want to be in that state of living in the past, because the present is where all of our power is. And then W stands for widen your perspective by creating a new blameless story. And, we always have a story playing in our mind. In my O.A.S.I.S approach, I call it softening our stories. And so anytime there's an extreme story, we're going to probably have some intense emotions. But if we soften that and we look at it from a much broader viewpoint, and we remember what's going well in our life, the blessings that are flowing in, we were able to move from that narrow viewpoint to this wider perspective of really feeling guided and given answers to the problems that show up. But if we try to do it all on our own and we're too hyper focused on the problem, we can't elevate from it. So widening that perspective is and creating a new blameless story is imperative. And then E stands for elevate your vibration by choosing alignment as your number one priority. And alignment to me is feeling a sense of peace, feeling like I'm right on track, even though things haven't gone my way. Alignment is feeling a state of power, knowing that we live in this inclusive based universe and we're attracting to us whatever we're vibrating at. And so my alignment is more important than the things that I'm having to face every day. So how I feel has become a priority, and feeling good in my own skin and being able to not blame myself and not blame another, and just say, we really can't get it wrong. We're just learning. every day. We're just learning, how can I do this better next time? How can I handle myself? How can I calm my nervous system so that I'm not as reactive? How can I keep showing up in the way that I want to? And so that's how we elevate, because we're choosing our alignment, the connection, the wholeness of who we are. And then R stands for release your resistance to allow miracles to unfold. And when we can remember, anytime we are resisting what is, we're holding back the miracles that are right there waiting to pour in. And so when we can release whatever we think has gone wrong, and instead we say, okay, how do I move forward from here? That's acceptance. And I also think that that's grace. I would say when I really felt that blameless state, there was a feeling of peace. And that's what grace is, because grace is not really something you can hang on to. It's a feeling state of no resistance.
I like
And
that. The no resistance. That is because that word grace is patience, love, kindness, compassion, all of the fruits of the spirit, I would say, the fruits of the spirit connected into one word.
And when we can remember that when we're in a state of grace, when we're in compassion, when we're in kindness, that is such a powerful state. So much of the time we think power is this force, but power is really standing in a place of alignment where you're not affected by your outside world. You are able to stay strong. It's like the eye of the storm, the eye of the hurricane.
Right.
There can be all types of chaos going on, but when you're in alignment, you can find peace and calm through anything.
Right. It's like Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul, where you're not attached to any particular outcome.
Yes.
So coming back to the dog who's having accidents in the house, you pinpointed the problem or whatever's making you that emotionally upset. You pinpointed it, and then what? How did you get yourself through that? What was the like you own it, you know that it's your anger, and then you W'd, you widen, right?
Just widen the perspective and remember how much love this dog brings into my world and everyone around. Like even this week, I've had different friends say, this dog is like one of my most favorite dogs ever. Like he just is so loving. And so I'm able to see him for who he is and what he brings in versus these little moments that he has, right?
Right.
So that's widening the perspective so that, I can see him through a different lens.
And the elevating your frequency.
Yes.
Give me an example, like what happens then?
Well, that's what helps me find my alignment, because it's not even about him. Because
Right.
when I'm angry, when I'm blaming, when I'm anything, that's in a lower frequency. And so my alignment is, I have an emotional guidance scale, and it's the green zone. Like the green zone is, clarity, joy, love, freedom, appreciation, passion, creativity, positive expectation. That's where I want to operate in. So that's where my alignment is. So anytime I'm looking at something and it brings me out of that, then I'm not in alignment. That's my own resistance. Not blaming, just being aware and saying, what can I do to elevate myself back into a place of alignment? Because how I feel matters. How I feel matters. And I want to do whatever I can to keep myself elevated. Now, that doesn't mean you're there all the time, because all of our emotions are good. So I never want to say anger's bad, depression's bad. None of that's bad. They're just indicators. Our emotions are just indicators letting us know what's playing in our mind, because the emotions come from the stories we tell ourselves and our perspective, not our outside circumstances.
Right. Yeah, because two different people could be looking at the same thing and feel two different emotions, right?
Yes. Yes.
So it's not the outside, but it's within ourselves and our own story that we keep on replaying in our head about what is good, what is bad, what is acceptable or unacceptable, and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last one, release the resistance. So what do you do?
It's letting go of the story. Releasing our resistance is letting go of what we think has happened, or the looking at anything in a place of lack. You know, when I was looking at my dog, I was frustrated with my dog. But when I released the resistance, you let the miracles flow in. And the moment I stopped focusing on what I didn't like, then my friends are like, "You've got the sweetest dog. He's like my most favorite." And then I'm like, "Oh, yeah, he's so wonderful." And you know what? The accidents have, he hasn't had any. So it's quite amazing, how much we attract into our experience. And so, and those are the, whether it's little miracles or big miracles, like that's what happens when we stop blaming. Miracles get to flow in. We get to see, the things that our heart's desires, they flow in with so much more ease and grace.
Mhm. And that's perfect, a perfect segue into let's talk about the last, well, a year and a half, or maybe it's 2 years now, Amy. What happened?
So, I've been working on my Blameless book a little bit, and then last August of 2024, um, I I received another message. I'm going to say as as powerful as the Blameless message was 18 years ago, and it was about living in the faith frequency. And I just felt this. I was just kind of pondering my clients and their spiritual journey and the importance of living in a place of faith. And I just felt this huge expansion happen in my heart. And I felt like amazing things were ahead of me and that anything was possible. And so this faith frequency was a message that came to me. And I actually was planning on moving. I thought, oh, we're supposed to move. We're going to go back to our old subdivision we once lived in. And John was excited. We're going to go back to our roots where we met. And so we started looking for a house because of this faith frequency. We thought we were expanding and moving our home, going back to our roots. And then he'd started having some headaches, and we put an offer on the house. And then the very next day, electricity went out, and it was 100-degree weather, and we could not prepare our house to get listed. And we had to stay in a hotel for 3 days. And then when we came home, John had the worst headache, like so bad. And he'd been, going to the doctor, and we were trying to figure things out. And I just looked at him and said, "Honey, we don't have any, we really don't need to be moving right now. We need to get you well," because it'd been a good month, maybe going on 2 months, that he was just having headaches. But this one was just so bad that it just really took him out. And so we we scheduled an appointment with the doctor, and then he ended up having a fall. He lost flexion in his foot, and it caused him to fall. And I was trying to hold him and catch him, and I fell down with him. And we ended up going to the ER. They did an MRI, and they came back and they said, "You have a massive brain tumor." Like it was like the size of a small Nerf football, it took up the right side of his brain. And in that moment, my whole world changed. And we had less than 24 hours to prepare. They were going to do a surgery just to take the pressure off. They said if we had waited 2 more weeks, he would not be walking. If we waited 4 more weeks, he wouldn't be alive. That's how much it was pretty massive. So in that moment, my world changed. And that evening, my son, he's an engineer. So I'm like, "I need your mind. because mine's not working right now. And my friends say, I had dear friends that were in the ER room with us when we got the news, and they were amazing. And but that night I said to my son, I need help getting all the questions. Like, if he doesn't wake up in the morning, what do I need to know? Passwords. He handled all of my finances, my business. He helped me with my business. And there was just so many things I needed to know, because he took care of a lot of stuff. He did a lot. He helped me in my business tremendously. And we just did everything together. So I got the logistics out of the way, and then I just laid in his hospital bed with him, and we just celebrated the 17 amazing years that we had together. We had a blameless marriage, and there was just always love and respect. And we just celebrated. And he said to me, he said, if I'm needed more on the other side, I'm okay with that. And I said, okay, then I got to be okay with that too. And in that moment, we just felt this peace. There was just an acceptance of, this is out of our hands. And we just celebrated how blessed we were to have 17 years of this blameless, loving energy, this communication, connection, and support. And I just felt blessed. And so we went into surgery the next morning, feeling peaceful, feeling blessed. And I was so thankful that he made it through. And then the surgeon informed me that, this was just to buy him time. So, 6 to 12 months was what we had. And he said, I encourage another surgery to go in and get, even closer, and it'll buy him a little bit more time. And so, they did a surgery 4 days later. And when John got out of that surgery, I remember him going back. I said, you just have one job, and that's just breathe. He's like, I can do that. And so that's what he focused on the whole time. All he needed to do was just breathe. And all he wanted to do, he said, was to see my face again. So after his second surgery, I walked into his room, and he had the biggest smile on his face. And he just said, I went to battle. And I said, you did? He says, yeah, and I won. I was like, wow. He said, I had an army of angels. Like, he just described this whole experience.
Wow.
And that he won the battle. And it was really an amazing experience. And then he came home, and he never was the same. He wasn't able to walk. He wasn't able to process. He wasn't even able to put something in the microwave to cook for himself. He really wasn't able to do anything after that. But we had the most amazing conversations. Even though he couldn't process things, we still had spiritual conversations. I recorded them, and that faith frequency formula began to be given to me on our journey. And it's what helped us get through the next 9.5 months, which is how much longer he lived after the surgeries. But I was so thankful for that time, because he knew enough. He had like long-term memory, but his short-term memory didn't work very well. But he was able to help me enough for me to take over all the things that he once did for me. I had to get all the passwords, 4 pages of passwords going all different directions. I had to get systems in place. He was the cook. I never liked to cook. I had to go grocery shop. I had to do all the things. And I knew that I needed to not resist all the things that I had to do. I did not want to resist. And because that's where the blessings kept flowing in, and blessings were just abound. And when I kept my eyes on the blessings, I it gave me what I needed to get through that day.
That is super interesting. When you stopped resisting what you didn't want to do, right? The
Yes.
the book work, the cooking, those chores, like really chore, then the blessings came in, which that in itself is it's profound in itself because when I think back to Job in the Bible, he never did once blame God. And that's the power of that story. That was the intent from the beginning that Job would blame God as each layer of horribleness came to Job's life, that he would blame God, that, even when he was covered in boils, that he would blame God, even when his wife threatened to leave him, he would blame God. And he never once did. He only wanted clarification, right? That's how the story goes. He just wanted to get some clarification on this. And so the beauty also, because you already had created 17 years of living a blameless marriage, you were already able to not blame, to not anything. You were able to get into that 9.5 months and embrace the blessings, the blessings of it, and the time you had left with John, which must have made it so much easier for him to transition into afterlife, into the beyond.
Yes, it was all very intentional. And we even had conversations when we knew that he wasn't probably going to recover. My intention was to be a peace walker and to let him have a peaceful and harmonious transition. And he thanked me for that. And he was so peaceful. Like, he was happy. He wasn't in pain. He was peaceful. And when we just accepted those things, and we always held out hope. You know what I mean?
Right.
You always held out hope for a miracle, but we weren't resisting what was in front of us. And you mentioned Job wanting clarification. I didn't realize, but that's exactly what I was doing every day. I was wanting clarity about what's my job today to do. And I really learned to just take one day at a time, and I wouldn't let my mind jump too far ahead and think about the future. Like, it was just, I was so intentional of being present and doing the things that I needed to do, but also making sure he was cared for and to make sure I was cared for.
Right. Right.
So I had to really take a special interest in myself for my alignment, and to continue to allow myself to feel joy. I don't have my necklace on, but I bought this necklace. It was a key, and on it had joy. And I had bought it like 2 months before his surgery, before we knew anything was going on, and it was on back order. And that necklace arrived the day of his surgery. And I wore it every day, and its joy is the key. And it was a reminder that even through the hardest things I was going through, it was okay for me to experience joy. Not only was it okay, it was a necessity that I let joy in, that there was things to be joyful about, even when I was going through this. And I just, every day I had that on, and I looked for ways to feel joy. I gave myself permission to laugh, hang out with my girlfriends. They were always checking in. They're like, you need to tell us what you need. We're here for you. And, there was just so many people that there was so much love and kindness. I just thought, we live in such an abundant, kind world, because there was just such an outreach of, but I also was sharing it, and I had never really shared my life, but I felt that I was supposed to share this journey. So I did post it on my personal Facebook page, and I shared what was happening, and little post here and there, and some pictures. And my daughter came and played her guitar and sang Chris Stapleton's song. She says, "Mom, I think this would be John's song to you." And it was Joy of My Life. I think that's the name of it. But she, she played the song for us out on the deck. I mean, there was just so many special moments, and, everything had meaning from, that moment of the diagnosis. It's like my life became vibrant and there was meaning in everything. And I'm so thankful to have felt so present and to feel all the emotions. Sometimes we don't want to feel everything, but I felt all the things. So I had all the emotions, and when I needed help, my sister was a tremendous support for me. And so when I was feeling some anger or resentment, because I don't want to make it sound like, oh, I was just in this blameless state all the time. I would get tired. I would get angry. I would get resentful, but it didn't last very long because I would feel the emotions come up, and I'm like, I gotta work through this. I need this. I need a broader perspective. I need to remember that I have everything I need today, and today's all I have. I just got to get through today. And she was so helpful, and my friends so helpful to help me keep finding my alignment. But that was what I wanted. I wanted my alignment more than anything.
So in your book, Blameless, you talk about what John said. You quoted it actually. Be more bold. Stop playing small. When I say that, you call in the book, you call them God sprinkles. I call it goosebumps. But when I get that, because of my not religious, but spiritual background, I just think of it as God. I think of it as Holy Spirit coming upon me and giving me truth. It's truth that I feel when I say that. So be more bold, stop playing small. How did you use that? How did you take it? What did it
Yeah.
mean to you?
That was a question that I asked John, because he's also an author of the book The Wingman, and we got this published 11 days after he passed. He didn't get a hold of it in his hands, but he knew it was coming. And this book was filled with questions that I had friends and family send in so I could interview him. And so these were his answers. And when I got done interviewing him from all the questions that friends and family sent in, I said to him, I have a question for you. After you transition, what piece of advice could I take from you that'll help me have the biggest impact in my life and in others? And he instantly said, well, that's easy. Be you, be bold, and stop playing small. And I was kind of like, well, that's a really good answer. And so that has really stuck with me. And I think the being bold is not caring so much what other people are going to think. This journey that I have been on, no one's walked in my shoes. And I have given myself permission to be happy, to be joyful, to keep moving forward, to keep, my tagline is the better it gets, the better it gets. And I believe that to my core, because there is no ending. And one of the things I learned on this journey with John is that there truly is everlasting life. So there truly is no ending. And we made an agreement that when he was on and no longer in physical, that he was still going to be my wingman, and that he was going to be helping, and I would be listening. And he said, I said, I told him, everything that you're interested in, passionate about, that doesn't change, because the physical body is so temporary, but your spirit and essence is forever. So in the heavenly realm or in the non-physical, you're still going to be interested in all the same things you always have been. And he looked at me and he says, is that what everlasting life means? And I was like, yes. Never thought of it that way, but that is everlasting life. Our spirit continues on, and they help from the other side. And us in the physical, if we could just take a moment to realize all of the angelic support that we have, and learn to pause and to ask and to feel and receive, listen, we have tremendous support. And I will tell you, since he's been out of the physical, he used to, I'll ask a question when I remember to ask him for help. He has always answered. And funny little things, when he was in physical, I'd be like, I can't find this, I can't find that. And he would always find it for me. And so if I lose things now and I can't find them, when I finally stop and say, hey, John, can you help me find this? Like I had missed my earpods in this little case, and I was getting ready to go on a trip, and I couldn't find them anywhere. And they'd been gone for like 2 or 3 days. And I had a hair appointment, and my sister was in my house, and I said to her, hey, can you like just you and John help me find my ear pods? Because I'm getting ready to go to, actually, I was headed to Croatia for 3.5 weeks. I'm like, I really need I need to find this. And the last time I'd seen him, it was in my car, and I looked in my car over and over and over, moved the seats, couldn't find it. And so I said, hey, can you and John help me find these? And then I went off to my hair appointment. And when I was in my hair appointment, I was telling my hairdresser about how John's been answering questions. And I said, and I've missed my ear pods. I hope that I can find them. And when I got out of my hair appointment and I opened my car door, this pod was sitting in the middle of my floorboard. And I had already looked that morning.
Of course you did. Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like twice. And so I'm like, he keeps showing up
Right.
when I remember to pause and ask. And all of us can do that, whether we have loved ones. I mean, most all of us have loved ones on the other side, but whether you ask Jesus or whatever your belief is, right? We ask and it is given. So learning to pause and ask, not from a stressed out place, but from a confident place that it will be given.
Right. Like
And
a child. Like a
yeah,
child would ask parents or whatever. You don't believe that they're not going to provide. You come from this place of complete faith that, yes, that's why I'm asking. I need help. I'm reaching out my arms to get picked up in whatever way.
childlike faith.
Right, exactly. Unless you become like these little ones, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's all there. So you're in your book, you talk about the faith frequency that became so profound at the time of John beginning his last journey. Can you talk about that, the faith frequency, just a bit, please?
Yes. Yes. And I've got a podcast that's going to be coming out called Living in the Faith Frequency.
Yes.
Well, and it's going to tell kind of it'll start out with kind of documenting the story after his celebration of life and kind of reflecting back. But the faith frequency formula that was given to me, so that message came 2 weeks before, but then the formula came. And what we found was John and I would talk all the time, but then after his surgery, I found we weren't talking as much because I didn't know what to talk about. Because we were always dreamers, and we were like, oh, we're going to do this and that. And it's like, I realized my dreamer had stopped because I didn't know how to dream about the future, because I didn't know if he was going to be in it. And I didn't know how to talk to him about that because I didn't, we're trying to hold out hope and faith that there's a miracle that could happen. But his dad came to him in a dream, and he told me that his dad said, you and Amy need to keep talking. So the first framework of the formula is keep talking. Don't hold things in, like keep connecting, keep asking, but also with your loved ones, keep talking and working through whatever the challenges are. So that was the first one. The second piece was I realized I wasn't able to dream because I didn't want to be disrespectful for where he was at. And I had a friend whose husband passed like 20 years ago of the same thing, a brain tumor. And she said to me, Amy, can you see your life after John? And I said, I don't really go there, hardly ever. She says, well, if you could go there and you were happy, what would you be doing? And I immediately thought, oh, my fun calendar. I have a fun calendar that John and I created a couple years ago, and every month we scheduled something fun. And I got out of the house because I work in my home and I was working a lot of hours. And so this fun calendar, I would continue the fun calendar. I would go visit a friend every month and keep my fun calendar going. And all of a sudden I had a dream. And John and I talked about that. And I said, I always tell them I'm holding out faith that, healing can take place. But if not, I wanted to keep talking about what my life was going to be like, and then what his life might be like on the other side. I didn't want him to be afraid of the other side, and how he'll get to come with me on all my trips. Wherever I'm at, he's a part of it. And so we just began to talk about if he was still physical and if he wasn't physical. We talked about both, and we created dreams and said the dreams are the same.
Yeah.
The dreams are the same. So, and then the third piece was keep feeling blessed. And so we continued to look for blessings, and we talked about blessings. And John and I always had this practice. I would always say, so what do you appreciate? And so we would just share our appreciations, and he would always include me and I would always include him. And we would just appreciate, because appreciation's one of the highest frequencies. It's equivalent to love. So appreciating and looking for things helps you have that higher frequency. And I remember asking him one morning, and it was closer to the end when he was sleeping quite a bit. I just said, he had a little more energy. And I said, so what do you appreciate? And he said, I appreciate my ability to stay calm and comfortable. I was like, oh, that is me too. I am so glad you are not in pain and you are so comfortable and calm. And then I said, well, what are you looking forward to? And he says, I'm looking forward to verbalizing my conversations with Jesus.
Oh,
I was like, oh my goodness. And, I just would hang on to those moments. I had an option of remembering him in that moment or the other moments.
right.
And I chose these moments. And those, I just kept looking for, there were so many blessings, so many blessings. I couldn't feel sadness when I felt so blessed.
Right.
And,
So there's just so many. Is that like three? You have three?
it's the keep talking.
Keep talking vertically and
Yes.
horizontally, right?
Yes.
Vertically and horizontally.
Yes.
And keep planning, dreaming,
Yes.
keep dreaming and planning.
Yeah.
And the third one,
and the third one is keep feeling blessed.
right, keep feeling blessed.
Yes.
Which is beautiful, because you, again, we're talking about what you're planning next. So you're planning a podcast. The podcast is coming out very soon too. But what is the Association for Transformative Leaders? What is that? And what is heavenly sexiness?
Okay.
I need in on that.
Okay. I love that. So I went to Croatia. One of the first trips that John said I should take was to Croatia to see my friend Miliana, who lives there. So I took this trip last October, and she had nominated me for the ATL Europe, which is the Association for Transformational Leaders. And I put a retreat on in Spain, and I have clients that were in London and Spain. So I've done some things in Europe. And so there was a conference there, but I went to go see her, and we went to the conference. And at this conference, there was a question that was asked. And they asked, what advice would you give your younger self 10 years ago? And as I closed my eyes to receive the message, I just heard this, stay sexy. And I was like, oh, I lost my sexiness. I lost my, you can get so caught up in life and you forget that sexiness is an inside job. It's being tuned in and turned on from the inside out. And it can be whatever you want it to be. There's emotional, there's spiritual, there's physical, there's all the things. And so we had to go around the room. Partner A had to whisper in partner B's ears and their eyes were closed. And so I'm going around and I'm telling everybody, stay sexy. And then, everyone's giggling. And then after that, they had me come to the front of the room and they said, Amy, can you share what your message was to your younger self 10 years ago? And she said, can you close your eyes and send that energy into the room?
Mm.
And I just felt this amazing love and just expansion, and it felt just such a high vibrancy. And then she had me open my eyes and she said, now I want you to send that heavenly sexiness out to the world and imagine everybody in this heavenly sexiness. And in that moment, I knew heavenly sexiness was my thing, and that I wanted to rebrand and I wanted to create these heavenly sexiness retreats because it's about being tuned in and turned on. And 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 I've had such an amazing experience. Even John's celebration of life was so amazing. And heavenly sexiness can be this new relationship that I have with John on the other side.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, he is involved in everything that I do, and I don't feel like he's gone, because the love that we experienced is a part of me. So it can never be taken away. And there is just, when you are so tuned in and aligned within yourself, and you're excited and you're dreaming and you feel blessed and you just keep sharing that with others. I've always wanted to bring more heaven on earth. That's been my mission for years, since I got together with John, and he was like, I want to help you with that. I'm going to say that heavenly sexiness is my new heaven on earth. It's my new upgraded language to say, this is how you can live life. And I've had people say, you're glowing. You're so happy. I have so many wonderful things happening in my world. I have wonderful relationships. Um, I'm going to say I've even started dating somebody. And I just, one day I said, you know what? I'm ready to date. And then 2 weeks later, I had a conversation about John's Wingman book at this event. And then it all happened that night. Like, it was like, I felt like John was a part of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just been so many things, like John is a part of everything I'm doing now. And I just want, so heavenly sexiness is this heaven on earth. And I have people say, I want to be in that energy. Like, whatever you got going on, I want to be in it. And so I want to create a community where we get to access this state. And I'm going to, think of a triangle, and blameless is the bottom of the pyramid, right? And then there's, acceptance, and then there's faith, living in the faith frequency. And then at the very tip is this heavenly sexiness, where you are just so tuned in to your guidance and honoring it and acting on it. And you're letting in all that your heart desires. And it's with this ease and this grace. My mantra is ease, grace, flow, fun. I want to do everything I can, even the hard stuff. I want more ease and grace and flow and fun in it. So I'm just constantly asking for those things. And so the heavenly sexiness, I want to put on some retreats. I also decided I wanted to start doing dance. So when I got back from Croatia, it was already on my agenda, and I started dancing. I've always wanted to. And I am having so much fun with that. So whatever retreats I put on, there's going to be music and there's going to be dance, because music's been such a healing part. John sent me a song an hour after he passed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the song The Three Little Birds by
Yeah.
but Casey Musgrave sang it, and it's kind of a melancholy. And I knew that was him saying, I'm still not worried about you, because when we first got together, he would always say, I'm not worried about you. I'm like stressed out. And he's like, I'm not worried about you. I'm like, no one's ever said I'm not worried about you. I'm like, that's like the best compliment you could ever give anybody.
It is. It's so much confidence in
It
you,
is.
right? So much
It is.
confidence.
Absolutely. And John would say that to me, and I was like, that's so amazing. And so that's how I am with my clients. I'm never worried about them. I'm never worried about my kids. I'm not saying that I'm never, but I move myself out of it because worry is not love.
Right.
And he taught me something so valuable. And he sent me that song saying, I'm on the other side and I'm still not worried about you, you know?
Yeah.
And there's just been messages that have come through. And then even, I'm dating someone right now, and it all started with music. And he said, Hey, Amy, if there's a song that describes you, what would that be? And I sent him a Faith Hill song, and I said, How about you? And he sent me a Tim McGraw song. And we've been sending music to one another.
Nice.
And and I just know that John was a part of that, because John and I met through music, and he sent me a song. And I'm just having fun in life. I'm not trying to figure anything out. I'm just having fun and enjoying life. And I think the more we do that, the more things continue to work out for us. And that's what that heavenly sexiness is to me.
Right. Right. Stop the longing for whatever it is, what thing it is that's going to finally fulfill us and complete us and make us whole, but just be super happy and fun and joy filled in this present moment, because we don't know if we're ever going to get to that place where we get the whatever it is, the house, the car, the job, the money. We don't know if it's going to be there or not, but we sure know this is here right now.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And that is the most important thing. That is it right there.
Yeah. Well, Amy, I feel so blessed to have you on the show. And what I always ask at the end of the show is, what's your message of hope? Whatever comes to you divinely or through John right now, and I'm getting, you call them God sprinkles. I'm getting them again, but they're in my arms this time. So what's your message of hope?
My message of hope is that when you are in need, when you're down, when you're disappointed, to remember to ask for help. And The Wingman is a great book to get to know John. I assure you that he is helping from the other side. And his nickname when we went through our coaching was, he gave himself the name Global Father, and he had a heart for everybody. So just know that whatever your belief is, John is there helping you from the other side. If you will remember to ask, he is there and wanting to help. Like that is his message. And of course I'm available as well, if anyone wants to work with me. I have a online course called Tune In and Rise Above. You just want some reminders and messages, there's that. But just remembering to ask that you're not alone.
Right.
You're not alone ever.
Yeah. It's beautiful. So how can people get a hold of you, Amy? Or what is your website?
My website is amyanfinson.com.
And can you
And
spell that for our viewers, please?
yes, so Amy, AMY, Anfinson is ANFINSON. So there's 3 N's, like Nancy.
Right, right. And you are on Facebook, Instagram.
Yes, and LinkedIn. If you want to know more about my personal story, you can go to my personal page, which is just Amy Anfinson. If you want my coaching, I put messages out multiple times during the week, and they're just uplifting messages. So you can go to Amy Anfinson Coaching on Facebook, on Instagram, LinkedIn. It's my personal page that you can go to. And if you go to my website, I have a weekly wisdom that comes out once a week with a uplifting message. You can sign up for my weekly wisdom. And then you'll also be on my newsletter in my community. So if I put on any of my heavenly sexiness retreats or whatever I get a desire to do, then you'll be the first to know in my community.
Awesome. I do get your newsletters, and I am following you, and I love those. It's a little snippet of it's a little quote or whatever of yours, and it's just beautiful. It's always beautiful, and it hits the spot wherever I need it. So I thank you for that as well. Yeah. So if you liked what you listened to today, please subscribe. It helps a lot. It'll help me, it'll help Amy, and it'll also help to promote her book as well as John's book. And I can't wait to read John's book from his side, right? His side of the story. I'm sure there'll be a little bit different kind of a perspective, and it's always nice to get that balance, female, male, that masculine energy, female energy as well. And it's been a pleasure to talk with you today, Amy.
Thank you so much, Fran, for having me. It's great to be back and connect. I love what you guys are doing. I think having hope through life is so important. So thank you for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.